precipice of becoming the U.S. national champion.
Huzzah!
Huzzah is a great way to finish that. Not even a word from the hat. It's just
No
a good
hat
word.
words. No hat words. Well, hey, it's 1 seed versus 2 seed. This is how it goes, ladies and gentlemen. Daniel Rutkowski's 13-1 record, worth noting, that one was a time.
Yeah.
Went to time.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even a loss in that regard. Fist bumps to start it off. The camaraderie, the community, just the fellowship that we have here in this event has been spectacular. I know you and I have gone around, walking around, talking to a lot of people. It has been just smiles all the way around, people having a good time. Good record, bad record, the 0-2 drops and all. It's awesome. So I'm so excited, not just for this particular matchup, but for where Flesh and Blood is going.
Oh, definitely. And Daniel did elect to go first here, presenting equipment. And Daniel, believe it or not, is running Arcane Barrier 3. I did not expect that, but Arcane Barrier 3, Tide Flippers, gloves, and hood, as well as the tunic. That was incredibly unexpected, and it honestly took me aback for just a moment. But being able to play Arcane Barrier 3, we can assume he sided in more blues for this matchup. But he has to know that Michael Hamilton's not just about that arcane damage life, that he's all about that wounded bull as well.
Daniel Rutkowski here has to know that it might be a situation where if you do not block some of that arcane, the on-hits can be devastating.
Yes.
You have Arcane Barrier 3. A blue Aether Ice Vein is something that you can block out if necessary, and it could be important because Icelander, if they get the tempo and buy your hand and continue to punish you that way, FAB might never even get a lick back in.
Well, that's actually what we saw the previous Icelander player play into the previous FAB player when we were watching that. I believe it was a quarterfinals match. And here, passing over, Michael ticks up the tunic and then is able to Aether Ice Vein fused. And this is where AB3 may just straight up come in handy because you have the ability to pitch a blue and stop all of this damage. And if you choose not to, well, you're going to be tossing a card.
Yeah, that caster vision coming in through. I call him the Blue Aether Ice Vein, and it is something that can be stopped with the Tide Flippers, the Null Rune Gloves, and Hood. So the question is, does Daniel Rutkowski have a blue to just donate to this cause?
And it does look like he does, but interestingly enough, he also appears to have a... I think it was an Art of War that I saw in there. And if he's got an Art of War here on his first true turn of the game, along with, even though he's donating a card here, I mean, you're going to have to donate a card, either by stopping the damage or by, triggering the on-hit effect. I imagine he's probably going to take this, because if that's an Art of War, you at least have an Art of War setup where you can maybe go 4 or 5 cards deep.
So the 2 damage from the Waning Moon has no on-hit effect. There's no detriment besides life total being diminished there. So as you can see, Daniel Rutkowski is going to go down to 38. And if that is an Art of War, like you said, he did pitch a Minnowism to go ahead and absorb the blue Aether Ice Vein. If he has a blue, if he has a Belittle, he might be able to go ahead and fetch that Minnowism back.
That's right. So he's ticking up the tunic to 2, and yes, it does look like he's going to start off with Art of War and the Banish, pitching the other Art of War. So he had conceivably a 2 Art of War hand. I can't believe if that third card in his arsenal, if that arsenal card was something huge like another Art of War, that would have been insane, an insane draw. But here we do have the Banish draw 2 +1 option chosen.
So there's only, I mean, in terms of the cards that you're picking up here, you're banishing a card and pitching a card, but Belittle is exactly what we're talking about. So there it is, and showing the fact that, hey, this is under that, it's 3 or less base attack, so we can go ahead and fetch a Minnowism. And you got to think that those blue Minnowisms are going to be coming back a lot.
Yeah, so he's going to go and recur that from the deck, I would believe, if he can reveal for it. Now, if he can't reveal for it, but of course there's the response. And he's going to Blizzard on this Belittle to try and stop this turn or make them pay 2. And he's doing this, I believe, before the card actually fetches those 2 resources.
Yeah, it's before that resolves. That element resolves. He's going to be blizzarding the Belittle, meaning that if you want to maintain the go again from Belittle, you have to pay 2. And in on a deck that runs primarily reds. Now, again, in this matchup, you're going to be siding in a lot of blues, obviously. However, they're still fairly scarce, they're sometimes not going to be there where you want them. So paying 2 is a tall order, especially when you have not gone and picked up that Minnowism yet.
Yeah, so he, I guess, is electing not to pay the 2, because, again, if you pay the 2 and both of your cards are red, you don't have a turn anyway. So electing not to pay the 2 and then going and fetching that Minnowism, probably going to be setting some stuff into the arsenal here and keeping that blue Minnowism in hand for a pitch for later. And hopefully to set up a 5-card turn is his play.
Michael Hamilton here is, again, one of the terms from the weekend that I like the most, like you said, threat density,
yes,
which is great. And when you're counting those major tools, FAB will always be aggressive, will always have big combat chains, but off the back of something like Art of War, it becomes extra scary. So counting how many Art of Wars are in immediate threat, one of them's on the table, you're not going to see that one again. Another's in the pitch zone, you're not going to see that for a while. However, you do shuffle for Belittle and Minnowism, so you never know. There is going to be some mystery there.
And that is the big thing that I think you touched on perfectly, is that he does have, even though that is at the bottom of the pitch stack, it's on the bottom of the deck currently, if you draw into another Art of War, or if you draw into anything that, like another Belittle or Minnowism, you're able to shuffle that deck very easily and possibly find that Art of War.
7, no go again. It has opted to take the +2 route here as Enlightened Strike tucks a card away. Michael Hamilton still has a card. You can probably assume that in best situation here, that is a blue ice card that he's going to be favoring for the arsenal. But the story still remains. 7 physical damage is being sent at Daniel Rutkowski. And for all those who think they know Icelander, Icelander does some naughty things.
Well, and this is a play you saw. If you were paying attention to Canadian Nationals, I believe it was last week, right? Yuki Lee Bender had a very similar play on several occasions because she would swap in Enlightened Strike and play Enlightened Strike for 7 just like this. Except Michael Hamilton took it a step further and he said, hey, what else can I do that throws 7 or 8 damage? Let's put more of those things in.
Smart move. And in this matchup, again, we were talking about Wounded Bull. Wounded Bull gets a +1 attack bonus if you have less life than your opponent. And as Icelander, that's usually how you start the game.
That's exactly right. So we're going to have a block with Take the Tempo, and he's giving up a card, which is really, really good from Michael's perspective because you do want to take as many cards out of the hand as possible or push their life totals down faster and faster so that you can actually get them in range to, just kill off of Storm Striders.
Daniel Rutkowski will always have situations where he can, with major, with 3 or 4 card hands, be able to piece together 3 or 4 card attack combat chains. And Michael Hamilton's mission here is, okay, how can I end this turn by doing a little bit of damage to Daniel while mitigating most, if not all, of the damage sent to me? It's going to be a slow burn. What Daniel Rutkowski needs to do here is find an opportunity where perhaps Michael Hamilton doesn't have the disruption that Michael wants, but Daniel's going to find an opportunity to either start stacking on the damage or create a scenario perhaps where Michael doesn't have an arsenal and then it's all systems go.
Yeah, and looking at the hand from Michael Hamilton's perspective, he does have a Brain Freeze, which is fantastic from the arsenal, or on your own turn to try and rip a card. I don't know if he has the fuse target for it because there's also an Emeritus Scolding, and it looks like there's a Scar for a Scar in there. So he may be trying to consider what he's actually just going to do with this sort of amalgamation of cards in his hand and actually put together on his own turn.
Still thinking here. The turn is Daniel's, and Michael Hamilton is just trying to figure out how he wants to approach this. Michael Hamilton at 35 started at 36, so not much trickling through. Most of the offense here has been directed towards Daniel, but Daniel's done his best. The Timely Blizzard has gotten some significant workout.
Now really trying to weigh his options on what he's going to block with, what he's going to allow to hit. I mean, obviously pushing a breakpoint is one that you never really want to try and challenge. And this matchup, particularly, you don't have a mask to worry about, but pushing that breakpoint, giving 2 cards just does not feel correct. And so he may just end up taking all of this, especially with the awkwardness of the hand that he has. And it looks like the Mounting Anger is going to do its thing and banish that Lava Burst, giving it +1. And here he goes with the Searing Ember Blade for 3 with Go again.
Having access to a weapon of that stature is always nice. 3 Go again. It's always there for you to use.
And he does, it looks like the 4th card in Michael's hand is a Brothers in Arms, which could make for a great defensive piece. But, I mean, look at the awkwardness of this hand for him. He's got like a Scar, he's got a Brothers in Arms. It really comes down to, can this hand that he's cobbled together here be, I guess, brought together and emulsified into something good from the arsenal. Like whatever his arsenal card is might be able to help him put together a turn and a half or 2 turns that just work.
In this case, Daniel spending 1 resource, pitching the blue Soul Beat Strike to use the Fire ability at instant speed to pay 1 to go and recover that Phoenix Flame. 2 floating here, and the 1 Phoenix Flame that is available is just poking for 1, but slowly but surely, that's Daniel's plan. 1 still on the stack here to try to figure it out. And again, what Daniel's responsible also for giving Michael the opportunity to respond, and there's going to be a lot of those windows that Michael's going to have to evaluate.
Yep, and here we have the Lava Burst that was buffed by 1 from the Mounting Anger, and it's coming for its Rupture value plus that 1. So this is a 6 block here, and it's blocked. I believe it's blocked all the way out, though I could be wrong. I forgot the block value on Brain Freeze, though I do think it is 3, which would make a full 6 power block.
A lot of 3 blocks in Uprising, and like we mentioned in previous sets, for example, a lot of those non-attack actions, or even some of those cards from, let's say, Tales of Aria, a lot of 2 blocks in that, and this is a set that is a little beefier, but we're going to start off with a red Scar for a Scar, speaking of 2 blocks. It's a 4 Go Again. This is going to check the life totals. If you have less life than your opponent, we get Go Again for free.
That's correct. And then as far as follow-ups are concerned, I believe the card that he has in hand is that blue Brothers in Arms, and so while this doesn't look great if you know all the pieces of information, Daniel doesn't know what else is coming. And so here he gives up a card, only takes 1, because there's a lot of options that could, come from that arsenal, or maybe that Brothers in Arms. He's going to pitch for the Coronet Peak, and this is a fantastic play because this essentially just takes 2 cards from the hand unless you take the Tunic Resource, and he does indeed take the Tunic Resource and then give that up off the Coronet Peak. So this is a fantastic little string that you can make where you have a Go Again attack, and then you Coronet Peak. Yeah,
a lot of people think that all equipment pieces are going to just have the natural Go Again on it, like Grasp of the Arknight and things like that. It's not the case. Coronet Peak is a 1 and done, so you got to time it correctly. Off of the extra action point gain from the Go Again of Scar for Scar, hitting the Coronet Peak here, and a quick response by Daniel Rutkowski. We haven't seen many of those very wide turns. The first Art of War turn was stuffed by a Blizzard. Was dealt with very adeptly by Michael Hamilton. In this case, Daniel Rutkowski is just going to try to go taller rather than wider.
Here's a full block for 7. He had another Brothers in Arms that he drew into. He paid the Tunic Resource to give it that extra buff, and he fully blocks this, keeps a 2-card hand. And on the back of that, Scar taking a card and Coronet taking the resource, really the only return volley was very easily dealt with, and now he can just throw this Aether Ice Vein. It's unfused, but it still represents 5 damage that puts their life totals at parity, and you don't want to be at parity against an Icelander or really any wizard.
Michael's done a good job of just trying to keep himself as healthy as possible here at 27. Frankly, only 9 damage leaked through, and it's been 3 or 4 turns by now, which against a 5-player of the caliber of Daniel Rutkowski, that is something to be proud of here.
Yeah, and how you deal with this and what you take and what you want to keep is really on the forefront of Daniel's mind, because eventually you do want to find that Art of War. You want to find the 3rd copy. 1 is towards the bottom. Does he have it in his hand right now, actually? It may look like just the edge of one of those cards does appear to be either Art of War or maybe a Soul Bead Strike again. But if he has it, then he may want to just take all the damage. Oh, no, it looks like it could be Soaring Strike as well.
Soaring and Soul Bead.
All the strikes.
I was going to say, it depends how drunk you are. They sound the same.
Enlightened Strike. There's a lot of strikes in this game.
Yes.
Spoiler alert. It's about fighting. Striking happens. He's gonna try to stop as much as he can.
Belittle and Brand with Cinderclaw pitched here to stop some of this damage.
Yeah, and look, he's pitching the red, and he's pitching the blue. He could have just pitched the blue, but he's cycling things around as well.
Might be an off turn. Ultimately, maybe he just wants to slow things down and, again, like you said, cycle them. If you don't need it, maybe that Belittle had nothing to pair up with that was good. But there was the Brand with Cinderclaw that he pitched, so he could have done it there. But again, you have to pair that up with also I got to pitch for something to pay for the belittle, match
That's
it up
right.
with here. So maybe it wasn't worthwhile.
So here he's got a 2-card hand. It could be something as simple as, well, I just have like another E-strike, you know, and so I just tuck, or I have like a command and conquer, or I have an E-pot. I almost said E-pot. I said E-strike, though.
We were close, halfway,
Yes,
50-50.
I literally said the first letter, so
Thank you.
That really helps.
That's pretty good.
Now, this is actually a great off turn. We saw this happen. I believe this was Daniel's game where he took an off turn. He triple blocked and then played an E-pot and then played the Art of War 5-card hand and won the game.
Here's the E-strike.
And look, I believe he's choosing 5 and go again.
There he goes. It might be a Cornet Peak chaser off this one. Again, you can only activate the Waning Moon if you played a non-attack action. So this is an attack action, so you're not going to get to swing with the Waning Moon in this case. But 5 go again from the Enlightened Strike is met by a Sink Below, so one of that is going to leak through.
It's very wise to include these Sink Belows, knowing this. And look at this, Fjendal's Fighting Spirit. He gains the life. We talked all weekend about life gain and how impactful it's been, both in Classic Constructed, but also in Draft. And here, Fjendal's Fighting Spirit just doing work, gaining that extra life.
7 attack. Daniel has to answer the bell here as he is sitting at 30 life. He has the life advantage just barely, as Michael Hamilton actually gained a life on his turn in this case, as well also presenting 12 attacks, sending the Soul Beat Strike there to block three of the damage here.
And with this, Michael has the life lead, a full grip going into his opponent's turn, whereas opponent on Phi has a 2-card hand and an arsenal. That is a huge swing of tempo.
The Tunic will go to 3. That's some help for Daniel, but a 2-card hand is not what you want to do. But like you mentioned from last turn, more ease.
Yeah, it could just be that you want to drop the E-pot, keep an E-strike in hand, and then E-strike.
You saying you look at these players like, wow, they make it look easy.
Oh, nailed it. Look at you.
He's just jamming those cards with ease.
Oh, no. We could.
We're done.
Stop. Yeah.
I don't know anymore. I had 2.
Oh, those were 2 good ones.
Were
those
they?
Were very
Thank
solid.
you. 7 attack again off the Enlightened Strike, tucking a card away, choosing the +2 option here. We're going to block with an Frost Hex. That's going to block 3. 4 is going to punch through.
I think this is a great block because the Frost Hex has very little utility in this matchup. You're not trying to play for a Frost Hex end game. What you're really doing is using that as a blue pitch, and it's just too expensive in a matchup that you're not going to go slow in. Plus, you're just going to fuse an Aether Ice Vein, which can't be stopped because there's only AB3, and this is 5 with an on-hit. So if you thought you could play a 5-card hand, think again.
Can't stop, won't stop. It's going to be fused with a Hypothermia 5 Arcane on hit, which it will go down. I don't think I'm looking at Daniel Rutkowski's list. Is there an Oasis Respite? Nope. None of the respites are in there. So we're going to just probably soak a little bit of this. But at the same time, I wonder if Daniel's thinking, do I even block any of this? I'm going to give up a card anyway. Maybe I just pitch a blue, block 1, and then pay the extra 2 here.
That is definitely a consideration that I think he can make. He's going to end up doing so by doing so, he's going to take 4, but that's still relatively close in life. Pitching a blue, blocking 1 of that, and using the rest of the resources seems just fine. The other option here, what I was going to mention, is using the E-pot to kind of pop and cover the cost, and then just taking everything and trying to play a 5-card hand.
I have to give credit again to the players, and obviously they've played a lot of competitive CCGs, especially Flesh and Blood. They've been in these situations, especially Michael Hamilton. Michael Hamilton is practically only plays on camera, it seems. The guy's a legend, but looking at, let's say, the Pro Tour in France and the finals there, when push came to shove and the last cards were pushed forward to sort of secure the game, Matthew Folks was shaking. And he even pitched his card to the wrong side of the board because you're kind of, a little bit nervous because you're finally crossing the line. These players have been very poised, very deliberate, and getting the job done. Now, the question here is, with the, I'm going to ask you this, with Dash having success at this tournament, with the amount of E-pots and such that are now leaking into lists more frequently, do you think cards like Smashing Good Time are going to just sort of spike in interest after this?
I think it's an interesting question. If Dash continues to put up results, and we did see Dash struggle into this Phi matchup, so I think it depends on where Phi goes from here, with the Phi stock rising seemingly across 2 different weeks. But with Dash also possibly rising in stock, and with the inclusion, like you mentioned, of all of these E-Pots, maybe a Smashing Good Time seems like a decent fit. It gives a buff and it gives a possible pop, you know?
Michael Hamilton has the life lead against Daniel Rutkowski, which is you think is like, this is a Phi list that is just fully always in 6th gear, and 4 go again is a good start to the picture here. Michael Hamilton has 4 cards and an arsenal, so you know there's going to be some razzle dazzle on his side.
Now Daniel was able to expertly use that E-Pot to pay the cost associated. And there it was, a 3rd Art of War in the arsenal. It's been sitting there for a while. And that's going to spell a giant turn. And this is why he used the E-Pot to its fullest potential, because he wasn't having to be forced to give up cards, so that he could set up a 5-card hand, possibly a 6-card hand, even crazier. But look at this. What a timing. Using Channel Lake Frigid on this Art of War turn to try and slow it down as much as possible. The next thing you play is going to cost you 2 extra, and then every subsequent thing you're paying for costs 1 extra.
I want you to take note at how slowly and deliberately the players are playing their cards, pointing at things, adding the tokens. You do not want to take anything for granted here. You do not want to miss a trigger, miss even a small little fraction of a turn that you take for granted. And we've seen it in the Swiss rounds. Players, really just toss things around, go through it quick. The clock is obviously a consideration here, but you're going to see the players just very deliberately pointing at cards, making sure that they're stacking things, reacting properly. Daniel putting the token on, banishing the correct card, playing at the right junctures. This is what you have to do to make sure that you do not let your brain just go autopilot and cruise right past the critical part of the game.
And it looks like, I'm not sure if they're still reacting to the Frostbite generation. And I don't know if, I know that card pitch there is there to stop Waning Moon. But choosing whether or not to take the Tunic resource really kind of spells whether or not you plan on keeping this turn alive from Daniel's perspective. And if they have allowed the Frostbite to completely resolve, then it's kind of a signal that this Channel Lake Frigid is enough. Oh, and look at this. He's going to just force the issue. At this point, you're just not going to have anything going for you, because I'm going to Blizzard on top of that 4-go again, and you don't have any recourse to continue this turn.
Michael Hamilton has timed a lot of these blizzards, a lot of this disruption at the right juncture. He's been patient. I don't know if that Channel Lake Frigid was in the pocket for 2 turns, perhaps.
It's been there for a while.
Yeah, he has basically identified when the right time is to play these critical cards, and he's already basically stuffed 2 Art of War turns.
Yeah, and so finally the Art of War is going to resolve and push the attack to 5. He is going to banish draw 2 like he chose. And that one did, I believe, lose go again. And so the turn will be over, but he is going to take 5, dropping down to 19. So it's 19 all. And again, I said this before, you do not want to be at life parity with a wizard, especially when they're about to throw a Fiendel's Fighting Spirit at your face for 7.
Right at your face, right
at your face.
Right into your mouth like it's a carnival game and you're squirting water.
Okay, that's one way to do it. There is the pitch of the ice card, and that's huge. Nope, he's not going to do it. He's going to Coronet Peak instead.
I like it. So that CLF is already on the board. You have to have a way to keep it on the board, and pitching one CLF to maintain the other one. We talked about this in previous matchups. Being able to cheat it out on your opponent's turn, it doesn't channel check until the end of your turn.
That's right.
So you have a full turn to pitch an ice card, and something like Coronet Peak is a great way to just toss resources into the pitch zone, when otherwise you may not have an option to.
Yeah, he's gonna channel that channel down to the bottom of the deck. After he channels the channel, he's going to arsenal the card, which I do believe is a Fiendel's Fighting Spirit, a red, and then draw 4. So this represents disruption that could be played, even though if it is a Fiendel's Fighting Spirit, it's not actual disruption that can be played, but it represents it, which is an important thing to note. And the Channel Lake Frigid also represents a lot of disruption that Phi's going to have to kind of bull rush through.
I think that's Rising Resentment for 3, go again. There was obviously the tax on that. That's typically a free card. However, with Channel Lake Frigid out, you're going to have to pay through it. So pitch the blue brand with Cinderclaw. And now we've got a 3 block to sort of match that same tempo. Both players at 19 here, but even though Michael Hamilton took 5 damage in that last turn, that could have been much worse. I think getting out of that scenario with only 5 damage dealt is a really good thing for Michael Hamilton.
Yeah, and here we have a Blaze Headlong, also known apparently as Blaze Hedgehog by many in the Flesh and Blood community, and he saved the sync for this exact moment. There it is, Blaze Hedgehog. If you played another red card this turn, Blaze Hedgehog has go again. I'm going in. Whole Hedgehog. That's the way to play it right there.
I love it. Do you think that he actually places bets with our degenerate gambling squirrel?
That is exactly the headcanon that I'm picturing, and I just need to know if someone could print me that card as an altar so that I can run that in all of my Draconic decks from now until the end of time, I would appreciate it.
Totally playable card also. 4 attack coming off of the Snatch there. That's a 4 on hit, draw a card. No opportunity to really give that go again, but there might, I don't know if Daniel's holding on to any more cards. There's nothing floating left, and there's still the Channel Lake Frigid that's out. So in my mind, I'm thinking, is this a Razor Reflex opportunity, which he does pack, but with this Channel Lake Frigid on top of that, it seems like not a good opportunity.
No, this is literally just representing a card in the arsenal, essentially. Do you want to block this, or do you want me to have a card in arsenal? And if you choose to block this, how do you go about doing that effectively? And you probably don't, because you give up 2 cards for that. And you kind of want to do some other stuff with your 2 cards. So this may end up just being a free card in the arsenal for one Daniel Rutkowski.
Pondering what to do here. Michael Hamilton has it all on the line in this game. Of course, the winner of this is going to be our USA National Champion for 220. 22.
220.
I was, you know why? Because I was looking at Michael Hamilton, and right next to his name it says 2, and I was like, oh, it's the sequel.
For 220, 22.
Yeah.
You just have to do it in an announcer voice.
Sorry, my bad.
22. Okay, so he's gone over to his turn. He can't keep that Channel Lake alive unless he pitches both of those ice cards, and he's going to Scar for a Scar. So it wasn't, excuse me, it wasn't the Fyendel's Fighting Spirit. It was the old Scar for a Scar. So this will have go again because he's at 15. He took damage so that he could set up the Scar for a Scar with the go again.
I think if both players are playing to get to lower life totals, I do favor Michael Hamilton in this case, because with the Stormstriders up there, you're going to have an opportunity to perhaps just, you know, swing for lethal twice.
Very much so. And he's choosing in this moment to pitch the easier to play card from the arsenal, which is the Aether Hail, in favor of arsenaling a second copy of Channel Lake Frigid. I do believe that's what he has. Either way, the Cornet Peak price is paid, and Channel goes away, and card goes to the bottom of the deck.
That Cornet Peak doing a lot of work here, but the Channel Lake Frigid is gone. Daniel Rutkowski has a nice clear path perhaps to start attacking again. Depends on how many cards he's holding on to. I see 3. Oh, we're opening with a Belittle pitching to reveal the, what is that? That is the Rising
Resentment. And I think that's actually his entire hand. Oh my
man.
Goodness. And he stuffs him, gives him the Frostbite as well. That actually may just be enough. That may be enough. You don't even have to play the CLF. You can just do this, stop the turn, conceivably.
And what a lot of people aren't realizing here is you look at Icelander's text and it says, okay, you know, usually you pair up the Frostbite with what's being played out of Arsenal. There's so much draft being played where Blizzard is not in it, but it's an instant card. And what Icelander said is any ice card played on her turn is going to generate a Frostbite. So this Blizzard is really not just saying pay 2 and you can pass, but it's also throwing down a Frostbite.
Yeah, this is a very powerful play, and players of Michael's caliber find the times to draw this and find the times to use this, because it's okay to hold on to this card, and it's okay to hold on to powerful disruption tools for multiple turns for the right moment. We saw him do it earlier with that Channel Lake Frigid in the arsenal for 2 to 3 turns before an Art of War came down, and then he responded with that incredible taxing effect.
So we're doing a little bit of calculation here. Again, pay 2 or you're losing the go again. That is naturally printed on that wonderful Belittle. The Frostbite is like we said, the extra sprinkles on that cake for Daniel. He's got to digest that bad boy.
Now he still has to resolve the belittle and go and fetch the Minnowism, but he did not choose to pay 2, which means his attack is for 3, and then he passes.
So that's all 3 blizzards.
I believe it's all of the blizzards he has. Yes, I believe he's played all 3. We've seen Channel Lake Frigid once. We know, I'm fairly certain that's a second one in his arsenal. We've seen him pitch 1 to the first Channel Lake, so that's still floating around there. There's still Hypothermias in the deck as well.
We see a Heart of Fyendal in hand. And is that an Aether Ice Vein perhaps in his hand? Either way, it doesn't matter. We're going to wrap up the turn here. Michael Hamilton might just pitch to Coronet Peak possibly and just pass the turn. We'll see what's what here. We're going to check up the Tunic again. Make sure that that is the first thing you do. You can't forget that bad boy, as it's now locked and loaded at 3.
Yeah, this is going to be an Aether Hail.
Aether Hail.
This is going to represent some damage. I believe it's just the blue, so it's coming for 2. But this allows you to, just push 2 damage possibly, and then Waning Moon for 2. And then be able to draw full hand of cards after this that could be more impactful, right?
I love Aether Hail. I used to play a lot of X-Men Legends like ages ago.
Oh yeah,
that was a great game. I used to always be Iceman, and I just see this such a good game.
Yeah, I could see this. I could see where you're coming at it with this card, and this card has some beautiful art as well.
All right, so we're running through this. The Aether Ice Vein managed to connect, I believe, for 1. And ultimately, there's no fuse on that, and there's no life gain also off of the Heart of Fyendal, as they were even Steven on that one. But now it's back to Daniel Rutkowski to go continue the pressure. We're going to start with Brand with Cinderclaw again, a very nice opener. 3, go again. Next attack is going to be Draconic.
Now it looks like Michael has all control and all the tempo, but you can never overextend against a Phi. We saw this almost come to pass in the quarterfinals, where the Icelander player in quarters overextended perhaps to a certain point where they were sitting at 14, and they thought they could tax the hand, and they had to go all the way down to 1, but they closed the game out. So you have to be very careful against Phi, because they can just push damage like crazy.
Oh, hey, remember this card? Yeah. I'm pretty sure you've seen this a few times, Daniel. There's the other CLF. That is Channel Lake Frigid. That is going to make every action, every ability, anything you do is going to take a little off the top.
Yep, and this is really well combined with taking the Tunic resource, because Channel Lake Frigid costs 2, so pitching a blue for this means that you can't Waning Moon without pitching another card, unless you have this lined up with taking the Tunic resource to give yourself 4 resources and follow it up for 3 damage.
Waning Moon connects as well, and of all the channels, you think Channel Thunder, is it Thunder Steep, Thunder Step?
Thunder Step, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the forgotten child of the channel, the channel siblings.
It is a bit unfortunate, but maybe one day we could have some fun with Channel Thunderstep.
We were saying this about Wounded Bull for so long. When is it Wounded Bull's turn?
You said that like last week.
I remember we were talking.
I don't remember that, but I kind of remember that. That was on a podcast or something. I know it.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be.
You were calling it a week early.
Hey, check out Armada's content. He's a #1 dude in my books.
Oh man, that's so kind.
Channel Lake Frigid, again, is a devastating aspect of this matchup here for Daniel Rutkowski. If this was something like Guardian, you pitch 1 attack, hey, that 1 is not going to end, and, really hurt your feelings. But ultimately, if you're going wide, paying 1 extra for everything you do is pretty nasty. And we're going to follow up with a Fyendal's Fighting Spirit for 7. I believe you gain, no, you're not gaining a life. It's only if you, you do gain a life on attack on this, yeah.
And it's pushing 7. By the way, that's half of the remaining life for Daniel, and that is a huge swing, and Daniel needs to really be careful from this point forward, because if he says, okay, I need to push back with something, so I need to take some damage, well, he starts to get in range of Stormstrider's lethal. So this is a very smart block, choosing to block it out completely, blocking, I believe, for 8.
That looks like,
8,
yeah. Belittle, I believe, is 2. Brand is 3. They got another 3-pack on there as well. So we're just going to overblock this. It's all good, no problem.
Oh, just kidding. Maybe he did take damage.
Are they 3 2s on that?
Could be 2-2-2.
2-2-2.
Combo, combo starters do have the downside, just like Head Jab of old, of being a 2-block, right?
All of them were, leg tap, head jab, surging strike. come in for 2 block. You want to start the party, you're going to lose a little bit of the defense. Nonetheless, Channel Lake Frigid was remains on the board because it was an Ice Bolt, I believe, that was pitched to play the Findale's Fighting Spirits. So passing the channel check here, and there's still so much that you can do.
Yeah, look, Daniel chooses just straight up pass turn. He offers priority over to Michael. Michael says, no, I'm good. And I'm good because I have a Wounded Bull.
Now, Wounded Bull played at equal life totals here is going to come in at a 7. Again, 7 for 3 is basically what the going rate is here. But Michael Hamilton likes to take advantage of the fact that Icelander starts at a lower life total, so there's not going to get the +1 off this Wounded Bull. But again, cards that you have not seen in a long time.
And look, Daniel's back in the same position as last turn. Do I take this and try to present some very large 5-card, 6-card, 7-card hand with some, flame recursion? Or do I full block this or attempt to block it as best as I can to stay out of Stormstrider's lethal range? Because if I choose wrong here, I could be signing this game away.
That's precisely what I was going to point at here, is that many matchups, if you've got the killer hand, Daniel would happily just take this and say, all right, let's go to my turn. But when Icelander can play on your own turn, on your own turn, and in conjunction with something like Stormstriders, it could get really nasty.
It can, yes. He's gonna full block this one. Oh, no, he's going to bleed 1 still. So he's blocking with what he can and trying to set up some small pivot turns.
All right, so we're starting with a Phoenix Flame for 0. Again, it's just merely to get the party started. Maybe an Ember Blade that comes after that, because Ember Blade does have the caveat that it needs to be the 2nd or greater Draconic Chain Link to gain go against. So sometimes you just got to throw the punchless Phoenix Flame to get the party started. But a Snatch from Arsenal, I believe, for 4.
And you don't want that Phoenix Flame. It is still part of the combat chain there, of course. You don't want that Phoenix Flame in your hand because it doesn't block. And so on that previous turn, committing like a 2-card block to try and allow yourself to just get this out of the way, try to just move this out of the way, because if they're going to keep throwing conventional attacks at you, you kind of want to be able to stop it, right?
All right, Tunic goes up to 3 for Michael Hamilton. He's got 3 cards. This is a luxury that a lot of Icelanders typically don't necessarily have. And we're going to go with an Aether Ice Vein, and it's going to be fused again.
This is another huge play because the disruption continues. Like I said it in that previous game, it's just like a tiger playing with its food, just pawing around the Fi. And this is, honestly, it looks like what many described on the outset of this Uprising meta, that Icelander can just kind of do whatever she wants and disrupt like crazy. And we saw Fi say, no, that's not the case. I'm just going to completely overrun you with attacks. And now we may be swinging that pendulum back a little bit.
That Tiger watching this game, looking at both players, thinking they're great, and just wondering just how is this one going to end, because it has been back and forth on both players' sides here. Again, the AB3 from Daniel Rutkowski is doing its best, is what we can say here, but the red Aether Ice Veins just plow through that AB.
Yeah, and it's still going to represent a disruption to the hand, and that's the big portion of this, is that the disruption of the hand is going to go through. So if you pitch into this, you're guaranteeing like a 2-card hand, basically. Unless you do the strategy of like pitch a blue, stop only 1 of the damage, take 4, and then pay the 2. That leaves you with a 3-card hand, maybe.
It's not clear-cut, but there are options. Daniel Rutkowski, some might say, well, the easy thing to do here is to take it all, or to block 3 and then lose some cards. But there are some other options that you can definitely take here. Daniel Rutkowski just plowing through that graveyard. Like you said, threat density. What's in here? And some of the threats are defensive in nature. And he's looking through. It's like, oh, there you are, Blizzards, for ruining my day. Thank you so much. But now that is a story that's long foretold, so we don't need to worry about those anymore.
He says that with such disdain. Both players taking complete stock of what's left in their respective lists and their opponents' lists as well. And really the question comes down, does Daniel pitch to stop this and then pitch to, like maybe take Tunic Resource and like that plus 1 extra? He's just going to, he's going to pitch as much as he can to stop as much as he can and then cover the extra cost from there. Maybe he has something like an Epon.
What a fascinating metagame. I cannot be happier than how things have sort of gone from, from week to week, tournament to tournament. Things are so different. You've got Oldham's winning 1 week, Reinar's picking up wins, Dorinthia's, Fies, Icelanders, Dashes, Briars. It's all over the place. I could not be more excited for Dynasty that's coming around to see how that shakes things up. But for now, we are within this sort of meta state that we are, and it is quite varied.
Yeah, he does take the Tunic Resource on that turn to try and stop some extra damage, stem the tide a little bit, and then just immediately passes. But obviously having to give priority to your opponent, and when you're at 9, you're starting to get to that danger zone. You can peg your opponent on something like an Ice Bolt in the Arsenal for blue and, then Waning Moon. But now because Storm Striders are still available and the Tunic Resource is up, there are so many ways to die. 1,000 Ways to Die here at the arena.
Was that a show or was that a movie?
1,000 Ways to Die, I think, was a TV show, yeah.
I think it was, yeah. That was a weird one.
Yeah. Well, speaking of weird ones, you don't necessarily expect to see the old Fjendal's Fighting Spirits show up on the table, but Michael Hamilton says, no, that should be a normal thing.
That should be a normal thing. Absolutely should be a normal thing. He's just presenting 7. And again, if you're Daniel Rutkowski, in your mind, you got to think about worst case scenarios when you pass the turnover or you start presenting attacks. If the worst case scenario is blue Ice Bolt into Waning Moon, you have to be prepared for that. I think at 9, you're relatively comfortable, but with Storm Striders there, anything could happen.
Yeah, there he's covering, I believe he's covering all 7 with that Lava Vein Loyalty blocking 3 and the Sync blocking 2, but that blocking 4, but that leaves him with 2 cards in his hand. And again, he can't push these giant turns that Fi wants to do. He's at 9, though, so he is out of range of a few things. So he can't die to certain things, which is kind of where you want to be.
He's pushed through for 23 damage in this matchup, and Michael Hamilton has slammed the door on a lot of it. So Daniel Rutkowski has done work. The life totals are not necessarily indicative of the work Daniel's tried to put through. It's more so leaning towards how Michael Hamilton has navigated these turns and timed these disruptive cards like the Channel Lake Frigids and the Blizzards.
Yeah, and here's the Cold Snap. Now, the effect itself is pretty non-existent because there is no Arsenal card for Daniel, but what it does do is it gives a Frostbite, and it allows a card draw, and it opens up Waning Moon to put you basically into this 2-turn clock.
We're just eclipsing the 41-minute mark here on this matchup. No time. There's no time limit to the games. We want to have a resolution to this. We're going to let the players and the cards dictate who wins. The U.S. national champion, Daniel Rutkowski, the #1 seed on Fi, the Draconic Ninja, 9 life. Michael Hamilton has multiple callings already under his belt. Playing Icelander, he is the 2nd seed, 13 health. We're getting to that point where we might see the first cycle of the cards go through. We're deep into this matchup, and it is still up for grabs.
Look, everyone's like, okay, let's all stop. Let's take stock. Where are we at? Can we play for fatigue? Wait, I'm at 9. No, we can't play for fatigue. This is going to end in the next couple of turns, and it could end in some fireworks on anybody's turn, really.
I mean, these are the aspects that you have to keep track of. They're both at 26 cards is what we're hearing right now. And ultimately, it's just, it's still anyone's game. If Michael Hamilton falters, if he finds a hand where his arsenal is basically frozen there, it could be problematic. Daniel Rutkowski has 2 Artivores that have already just evaporated into nothingness. Blizzard just shutting the door on that. Michael Hamilton is out of Blizzards. There's a CLF still floating around somewhere.
A yellow belittle pitch to stop 2 of the 3 damage, taking 1 down to 8. This is just this back and forth affair. Who's going to blink first? What is Michael going to do? Is he going to come in with the Storm Striders at some point? When is it going to happen? And how do you stop all of the damage as you've done? And Tannen Gray standing behind Daniel, checking the scores of the baseball game.
It's true.
And the E-Strike for 7, most likely for 7, unless he wants to snake together something like a 5 go again into, I don't know, Cornet Peak or something to that effect. And it does look like that's probably what he's playing for.
We're going to take bets here if when Tannen interviews the winner, whether he asks him he's going to ask him how he feels about Albert Pujols hitting 700 home runs. You just won the U.S. national champion. Are you a fan of Albert Pujols? That's probably how that's going to go.
Now, he can follow this up. I do think he has a blue card and Fyendel's Fighting Spirit again, so he can follow this up for 7 if those reads were correct. Nope, it's Wounded Bull, and so that's for 7 instead.
Nastiness, absolute filth over here with 2 cards left. Daniel Rutkowski might actually have to just donate to the cause here.
I think this is a must full block as possible. The 2 cards in hand are, even if they block 2 and 2 respectively, I think you have to just do what you can to block here. I don't know, maybe you keep a single blue to try and stop the crackback lethal off of like Stormstriders, but it's just dire straits.
Oh, he's throwing it in here. He's going to be blocking 3, taking taking 4, going down to 4. That's the danger zone, but there's no arsenal. So I think what he's doing here is he's saying, okay, I can take the damage because I might not be in range, but Stormstriders are the wild card.
Yeah, Stormstriders for lethal, and we do see the capabilities here. He can push. Let's see, he has 1 card to pitch. I think this might just be a lock, and there's the Blaze Hedgehog. One last gasp from Daniel, trying to push that Hedgehog across the table, and this might be an opportunity for Stormstriders lethal if you take the Tunic resource, use that to pay, and then come across for, if you have the resources for it, I don't know, something like 4 and 3 respectively.
Michael not committing the card yet. He looks a little bit hesitant here. Ultimately, he's going to give the Brain Freeze here to block 3, take 1, go down to 11. There's plenty of runway for Michael Hamilton here, but one mistake could change everything. He's got it in his sights. He wants to make sure that he does this and executes it perfectly.
Yep.
Another
so
Wounded Bull.
Wounded Bull for casual lethal. How do you feel about it?
He presented that before Daniel even drew up the cards.
He smells blood in the water. He knows what's up. He knows what's coming, and he knows that he can Stormstriders with this Arsenal card. He can Stormstriders for lethal in 5 different ways. Let's see what Daniel chooses to do. This is, I mean, it's really, at this point, you just consider throwing everything in the kitchen sink at this, including the sink.
Just throw
Just
absolutely.
I mean, if it helps you, maybe find the faucet, chuck it on over there, because you're at 4 and there's not much recourse from this point.
I think Michael Hamilton is thinking, okay, if I can find one of these wizard actions, throw some arcane damage that way, maybe follow up, we're good. Stormstriders, I don't think he's found the right recipe for it yet, but a Wounded Bull is a pretty good start. Again, Michael Hamilton feels exceptionally comfortable at 11 right here. Daniel Rutkowski is really just walking the line at 4.
Yeah, taking the Tunic resource, that could just be a sign that you are going, oh, he's going to Defensive Art of War. If you had that on your bingo card, you get to check it off. The old Defensive Art of War here, gonna banish draw 2, give all of the cards +1 defense, and +1 attack, technically, as well.
Which, in certain cases, that actually factors in if you're looking to trigger a Phantasm in certain cases. I've seen that happen.
Most definitely, and this should, I believe, block everything out, but even in this scenario, still sitting at 4, if that card that was tucked was something like an Ice Bolt, like a blue Ice Bolt, there's too many lethal outs. There's too many.
Can Daniel Rutkowski do anything with 2 cards? Can he ever...
Oh, I think I know what that card is. I think that's Emeritus Scolding, and if that is Emeritus Scolding, this game is almost just a lock. Even if you respond to this energy potion, it may just be a lock.
So the energy potion, Michael might be wondering if he's going to actually let this resolve first, because he said, okay, before that hits the board, my friend, we're going to go to town over here.
Scolding, this represents 4 damage. We have the possible also follow-up with Waning Moon if he can stop all of that, and follow-up with, he does have an Ice Bolt in the hand, a blue Ice Bolt, so he can even Stormstriders with that for 3.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing the rise of Icelander. Michael Hamilton has masterfully crafted a unique and fascinating version of this hero's deck, and I'm telling you, off the back of the Wounded Bull, it looks like Michael Hamilton's going to put Daniel out to pasture here, as there's 4 on the stack before that energy pot is resolving. Daniel has to see what's up. We're going to go with the Waning Moon as well.
Waning Moon for 3. He has to stop this damage as well. At this point, it is representing full lethal, and then Stormstriders for another 3 perhaps could come down, or he could just say, that's totally fine. I'll play for lethal on my turn. Nope. The Stormstriders, he comes in. There's 3 Ice Bolt. Does he have it? No.
It's over, ladies and gentlemen.